We have goats, we have kings. Is the prince here? The heir apparent? Well, Carlos Alcaraz is definitely putting forward a very strong claim. He completely obliterates Alexander Zverev, if I'm being completely frank about it. 6-3, 6-1. Wow. I mean, what a win it was as well. In straight sets, and not just in straight sets, it was over so quickly. It was a 6-3 set, then a breadstick, and then he just thought, okay, yeah, well, thanks for coming, everyone. Done, done, and dusted. And that's after two marathon matches, of course, against Nadal and especially against Djokovic in the semi-final. Zverev just not strong enough. He had played very late against Tsitsipas the day before, yesterday, that is, but he didn't look too tired. It's okay. Alcaraz was just way too strong. And going into it, he had a love to head-to-head record against Zverev, that is. And their previous meeting in Vienna, Alcaraz struggled so much returning the Zverev serve. He is not the same player that he was in Vienna against Zverev that day. He is completely transformed, and his trajectory has just gone from, oh, yeah, he's looking nice, pretty good, to whoop, straight through the ceiling, through the roof. The hype is real, man. The hype is real, guys. It really, really is. It is incredible. We've got a lot to unpack. Let's get into it. Before we do, please remember to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Really do appreciate your support. Great to have you guys tuning in as always. And of course, if you're listening on a podcast platform, do leave a rating and review. You can see a lot of you listening on podcast platforms as well. Shout out to you guys. Do leave a rating and review, does really help, and do subscribe as well, depending on what podcast platform you're on. YouTubers, my OGs, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Of course, you know what to do. And we will be having a membership come out soon as well as an option. So get involved if you're interested with some cool perks. Right. This is just incredible. I mean, 19 years of age. What a ridiculous phenom at the moment Carlos Alcaraz is. I mean, until he goes incredibly deep at a slam, I think I still reserving full judgment about how special he's going to be. He's definitely special, no doubt, but as in the, I guess, level of special he's going to be. I mean, I'm not going to start talking about, multiple, dozens of slams like a lot of people are at the moment. I think let's see how he does in the best of five. If he can beat a Nadal, a Djokovic in a best of five, then we're really talking. Then we're really, really talking. But these are hugely positive signs. Zverev as well, fair play to him, said, I want to congratulate Carlitos. Right now, you're the best player in the world. I have to say, he's not wrong. And fair play to him. He said, it's great for tennis that we have such a new superstar that's going to win so many Grand Slams, that's going to be world number one. I think is going to win this tournament many more times. So he clearly is believing the hype as well. And what's incredible is that, of course, and I've mentioned it in a previous videos, that Alcaraz just 12 months ago was ranked at number 20 in the ATP rankings when he made his Madrid debut. However, soaring to 5 tour level titles since. He'll climb to a career high of number 6 in the ATP rankings tomorrow. Alongside, of course, Masters 1000 titles in Miami and Madrid, he won the 2021 Next Gen ATP Finals champion trophy and also won trophies in Umag, Rio de Janeiro, and Barcelona in the past year, meaning he is the youngest 5-time titleist on tour since Nadal clinched 7 crowns by 19 in 2004 to 2005. Alcaraz has won his past 10 matches, yet to lose an ATP Tour final. Who is that reminiscent of in world tennis at the moment? Iga Swiatek, who is, of course, definitely further along in her progression after winning Roland Garros as a teenager. And she's won a Grand Slam, but she's never lost a tour final. Iga Swiatek, and she's played more finals than Alcaraz so far. Alcaraz just seems clutch in the big moments. He really does seem to just soak up the pressure and think, you know what, I'm loving this. He laps it up and he channels it into this incredible, I guess, kind of machine that is the Alcaraz mind and body. And what gets produced out of it is just magic. And I know I'm using a lot of superlatives, a lot of maybe even cliches, but I can't quite describe to you what's going on right now in world tennis, in the ATP side, that is, because Carlos Alcaraz is just in the last, not just, it's not 12 months, but in the last couple of months, he's suddenly just soared. He's soared through the rankings, soared and soared and soared, and he's just chopping people down left, right, and center. Like, oh, you're a goat? Okay, well, beat you. You're a goat? Beat you. Zverev beat you. Great. What to say? What to say? Let's get into the actual match, though. Enough of the praising Alcaraz. He's not that good a player, is he? Average. No, I'm only joking, of course. An incredible player. So, of course, he has the most match wins as well now in 2022. 28 wins, Tsitsipas 27, Rublev 25, Kekmanovic 23. But what I actually wanted to talk about is some interesting stats that the ATP have available, so you can check these out as well. It's on the ATP site. I'm not going to take any credit for these, but so they talk about, and I'm pretty sure they've got insights here. So these are interesting stats. I'm going to go into, of course, the more traditional stats as well. But they have a couple of stats here. So balance of power, conversion, and steal. Now, balance of power, I'm assuming, means who kind of has the momentum throughout the match. Now, interestingly, there's like a grey bar, which I think in the middle, which kind of just shows that it's kind of even or equal. Interestingly, right, the balance of power is 31% Alcaraz, 29% Zverev. You wouldn't be able to tell that given the scoreline. But then here comes the real differences. In conversion, which I'm pretty sure is when you're on the front foot and you're able to you're expected to win the point. Do you convert that point into a winning point? I think is what this stat is showing. Alcaraz had a figure of 86%, 24 out of 28 points. Zverev, 17 out of 35, 49%. So Alcaraz, out of those 28 points, he won 24 of them. So these are situations where the ATP deems a point to be really in Alcaraz's favor. He should be winning it. It should be a regulatory winning point for the Spaniard. And he only dropped 4 points in that category. For Zverev, he only won just under half at 49%. So that then tells me quite a lot about who was more convincing on the day, who lacked the conviction. It was Zverev, which then also tells me that he's pushing at the ball a little bit. He's not really hitting the ball as clean as he should be, and probably not hitting his spots on the ground strokes as well, and on the approach, not hitting as deep as he could be, not hitting his corners, being a little bit conservative. Whereas Alcaraz tells me that he's being pretty aggressive, but it's a calculated aggression, which is obviously gleaming a huge amount of success, and that's what that figure tells me, right? Only losing 4 of those points. Interestingly as well, I think it's worth noting that Zverev had 7 more of these points than Alcaraz to potentially win. But he just did so bad in terms of the conversion of them, interestingly. And then we have a really interesting one. So I guess this kind of talks about then Zverev obviously didn't convert those points, so Alcaraz stole them, right? So either it's a mistake from Zverev, or Alcaraz has just come up with something ridiculous, whether it's a passing shot on the stretch, or he was on the back foot and then managed to somehow defensively get back into it and then transition from defense to attack. So I think this is also a stat that's showing how Alcaraz defensively, I guess, is able to get into points better than Zverev, and whereas when Alcaraz is on the front foot, Zverev struggled, I think, to wrestle back momentum in rallies. So 51% for Alcaraz in favor of him, 14% for Zverev. So it's the flip figure, right? So that some interesting stats there, by the way. I mean, don't know if you care about those stats, but I thought they were relatively intriguing, and I haven't really delved hugely into the optics of kind of different stats nowadays in tennis. And I thought you know what, why not delve into it? Then we look at the interesting patterns of play. Now, for me, Alcaraz, there are a few instances as to why he won this match, and I think one is just the level he's playing at the moment is better than Zverev, no doubt. But if we look at it from a tactical standpoint, there's a couple of things. I think the first one is well, let's start off with the most obvious one, the drop shot. I think obviously his drop shot has been phenomenal throughout the week, and in a lot of people's eyes, is probably up there as one of, if not the best drop shot on tour. Touch and feel he's got is phenomenal. It's mainly on the forehand side, opens up on it, just kind of really finely slices across it, and it's not super airy. Doesn't have a lot of backspin. It's just great touch and feel to just get over the net and give your opponent barely any chance. And Zverev at one point was not even able to get to any of them. I think Alcaraz had hit 6 drop shots at one point in the first, I think it was the start of the second set, and all 6 of them were drop shot winners. So he'd pushed Zverev back so much, and Zverev sometimes can get caught being very deep on a clay court and being happy to just trade from like 4 meters behind the baseline, which is crazy because why would you want to be there? And then he gives up and surrenders any momentum that he could potentially have. And then if we talk about, I guess, other patterns of play, so I think serving is a big one. And interesting, the serve rating, I mean, Alcaraz at 334, Zverev at 200. That is pretty poor for the German. Shouldn't really be anywhere near that. He should be pushing beyond that and probably in front of Alcaraz there. Return rating 214 for Alcaraz, 38 for Zverev. Didn't have a particularly good return day, I guess, or returning day. And there's a few reasons for that. I think the first one is that Alcaraz did hit his spots for the most part. And interestingly, the serve placement from Carlos Alcaraz was interesting. Now, you normally expect Carlos Alcaraz, right? You normally expect Carlos Alcaraz to go where? So if I'm Alcaraz, okay, where am I going to Zverev on return? Am I going to go into his forehand, his backhand, into the body? I'm going into his forehand because his forehand is the shot that breaks down the most, and it's not the most natural shot for him. And what that means is on the return, it's also the least natural as well. And for the most part, it ends up being a very loopy return that he tries to just get deep into the court and then get into the rally. It's not particularly harmful. So interestingly, and you would barely see this against most players because you normally don't want to serve into the forehand, Alcaraz served 75% of serves on the juice court out wide. So into the forehand. 75%. 75%. Ridiculous. And then on the ad side, he mixes up a little bit more. And the reason why he mixes up more on the ad side, though, is because, of course, we know that he loves that kick serve out wide on the ad side. And even Zverev, who is very, very solid on the backhand side, didn't have huge success returning that kick serve out wide because Alcaraz was hitting the kick serve right into the corner and kind of back end of the box. And it just means that it really reared up and he was really exerting a lot of spin on it. And we saw Djokovic struggle with it, and he's got one of the best two-handers in the game, if not the best. Zverev's also up there. And both of these players struggling with that. And whether it's the return position, whether it's just they're not used to potentially someone being brave enough at times almost to go into that side, I don't know. But still, 46% into the backhand, 46% down the tee into the forehand. And a lot of those serves into the forehand on the ads were actually also kick serves as well, interestingly. And Zverev just didn't do enough of the returns. What it meant was that Alcaraz was just completely eating Zverev's returns up. And when I say eating his returns up, what do you mean, you say? What do you mean? What I mean is that he was coming into serve volley a huge amount. And there's a massive, massive reason for that. And the reason for that is that Alcaraz knows, okay, hold on. He is not going to hurt me. He's not going to hurt me. He's not going to hurt me. He's just not going to hurt me. He's not going to hurt me at all. because the return it wasn't good enough. It just was not good enough from um, just wasn't good enough from Alexander Zverev, and Alcaraz said, "Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not only going to serve out wide into your perceived weakness, the forehand, but I'm going to come to the net and volley because I know the return's going to be loopy. I know it's going to be at a decent height for me for the most part. It's not going to be whizzing past me just over the net with a lot of pace, so it gives me time." And he served and volleyed sublimely, like incredibly well. It was great to see, and he served and volleyed really often as well. I don't know the exact stats for it, but he was really going for it, and it was great to see, especially on a clay court and with Zverev's really deep return position and the way that he was hitting his spots and then coming in behind it. Unbelievable touch and feel on the volley as well. I think it's definitely look. I'm not going to say it's an elite volley, but it's definitely up there as a very very good volley. That's for sure. Carlos Alcaraz on the forehand and backhand side, by the way, just the way that his placement, his technique, his ability to move correctly as well, to volley as well, is just really good. And the way that he slides on the clay, it's just natural, and it just looks so seamless at times, and almost, dare I say it, Federer-esque at times, the way that he's serving volleys. So that was really impressive for me. And then in the exchanges, for the most part, Zverev was coming out second best because he just wasn't able to keep up with Alcaraz. And one of the biggest things that I guess one of the things that would have contributed to that was the depth, I think, that Alcaraz was able to exert on the ball. So if we look at it, and there's actually a couple of cluster maps here, so I recommend you checking them out, is the depth, right? So first of all, if we look at it from a kind of add to juice point of view, so how many balls are going into the backhand, how many balls into the forehand, let's say. So Zverev was hitting 57% of balls into the forehand, interestingly, 43% into the backhand. Alcaraz was going 47% into the backhand, 53% into the forehand. So Zverev was being cautious because he was going cross court on the forehand. And that's what Alcaraz, I guess, was trying to target, if not, kind of attack anyway. And if you look, well, as I'm looking at it, you can see there's a big cluster on the forehand side where Zverev has hit a lot of balls, kind of trying to hit an angle, trying to go deep, but barely any right in the corner of that forehand wing. If in fact, none. Absolutely none. The backhand side, yes, and that's because Zverev's backhand, he does back himself more, and there's a bigger cluster right in the bottom left-hand corner, in the backhand corner. Forehand corner, absolutely none. So he was completely outclassed in the forehand to forehand exchanges. For Alcaraz, there's clusters on the backhand and the forehand side, and of course, a couple in the serve boxes because those are drop shots. Now, the depth that Alcaraz was able to exert throughout the whole final was just superior. And of course, we know that depth kills. We've seen it with Novak Djokovic. He is the absolute king when it comes to depth anyway. And Alcaraz is just so physically strong, so quick and athletic across the ground that Zverev had to go bigger. He had to be smart, use the angles, use depth, and try and break him down. He just wasn't able to be honest with you. And the difference between himself and Alcaraz throughout the final was that Alcaraz was serving and volleying fantastically. Zverev wasn't serving that great. And then behind the serve as well, the 1+ shot wasn't great. The volley wasn't amazing. At times, Alcaraz was able to get to it and kind of pass him as well with ease. And then in the exchanges, he was just losing them really convincingly. Alcaraz was hitting bigger, not just bigger, but he was hitting more consistently. He was hitting with greater depth. And Zverev was just outclassed on the day. And I don't want to talk about it too much because, of course, in the end, it was a straight set victory. But if you look at, I guess, the most damning stat, or the stat that kind of says it all, is the first serve percentage, and then looking at it from the win percentage on first and second serve. So Alcaraz, so you can see there are 3 aces for Zverev, 1 for Carlos Alcaraz, but 5 double faults for the German. Forget about the aces, though. It means nothing in this sense, and I'll tell you why. First serve percentage, 74% for Alcaraz, 72% for Zverev, so very similar. But win percentage on first serve, 89% for Alcaraz, 56% for Zverev. 56% behind the first serve. That is so poor. That you're not winning a game with that. You're not. And Alcaraz, 70% on second serve, 50% for Zverev. 70% on second serve. Zverev was not doing enough on the second serve returns. Alcaraz, yes, backs up his serve like beautifully. He's able to make a lot of forehands. His movement around the backhand, great. But overall, it's just not particularly good, right? Like the returning from Zverev there needs to do better, and then back up his serve as well with the 1+ shot. It just wasn't, the 1+ plays weren't good enough from Zverev. I think he wasn't convincing, and he definitely lacked a lot of conviction throughout the whole match. Yes, he may have had a slight hanger from the Tsitsipas match, but it wouldn't. I don't think it affected this match result whatsoever. Alcaraz just had a phenomenal week. Well played to him. What a win, and what a tournament week for the youngster. Thanks very much, guys, for tuning in. Please remember to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And of course, let me know your thoughts as well on the final. Surprised? Not surprised? Alcaraz going to win the French Open? Are you getting excited? It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Do tune in as well for my French Open or Roland Garros power rankings for the ATP. Should be doing that tomorrow, and also for the women's as well, on top of also doing the women's draw, hopefully for Rome. Need to get that done as well. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you on the next video.